Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. Got to have a lot of energy today because this is probably the last time you will see our faces until the start of the NFL season, week 1, which I believe that Wednesday is like September 8th or something like that, because the next 4 shows after this one are Women of Fantasy Football shows, but we'll get to that later. Joining us today to wrap up our Look Inside previews on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs, Jeff Bell. An awesome guest that we have on with you. Joining me, as always, Josh and Ryan. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo, and Ryan, I haven't seen you do the shock face.
I try to catch it. I'm not very good at it, but today it was almost perfect.
I was going to say, I haven't seen you do that in a while. Joining me, as always, Ryan and Josh, and for the first time on the show, one Junkyard Jeff Bell is what we've coined him in pregame, because he's broadcasting from his what would you call your basement right now, Jeff?
My basement is a cluster right now, is what I would call my basement right now. It is a work in progress, and I'm doing my best.
There we go.
As a cluster F, because we are clean on this show, always and always have been. All right, before we dive into the Chiefs and Bucs here in that order, apparently football is back because injuries are back.
The beginning of our show. The obituaries.
The injury list. If you missed our Starts at Different Days shows during the year last year, you would have known that we came with about a page long of notes of injuries to start the show. We're at about a quarter to a third right now, so we're nearing the NFL season. Carson Wentz injured, shocking. Who would have guessed? The real shocker, Quentin Nelson, exact same injury, I believe. At least he had similar surgery on his foot. They're both out 5 to 12 weeks. Quentin Nelson being out 3, Wentz being out 15. So that's really their. Wentz won't
All
play.
I know is I'm going to have to blow a bunch of fab on Jacob Eason and Scott Fishbowl, which sucks. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, was Wentz one of your?
Yeah, he's my QB2 in that league.
Hate to see it.
Rip. Yeah.
I like to imagine that they were fighting each other with just feet, and that's how they got the exact same injury.
They were kickboxing.
Indian leg wrestling?
Yeah. Josh, you deserve to blow all your fab on Jacob Eason because you drafted Carson Wentz. So I
also have Deshaun Watson late, so I may not need to. So
okay, we'll that's true. Minnesota was struck by COVID. The QB room lands on the COVID IR list. Miami also had a lot. The co-offensive coordinator. Why is that even a role? Like, just have one guy run the offense.
They have 2 offensive coordinators.
Yeah, because having one hasn't worked out the last 2 seasons. So let's double our pleasure this year.
Yeah, right. Why not? AJ Green and Julio Jones are both dealing with injuries, along with Marquise Brown. Antonio Gibson passed his turf toe issue. Do not let that go unnoticed. That was a report earlier in the week. Joe Burrow showing a lack of confidence in his surgically repaired knee. A lot of reports at a Bengals camp saying he's a little skittish around any kind of pressure, even with a red jersey on. And I will add something from Patriots camp. The first day they were in full pads. Newton looked better than Mac Jones, according to all reports. Don't feed into it. Don't worry, Mac Jones will start by week 9.
I'm actually surprised you even said that, Joe, because I know in your heart of hearts you don't believe that.
I don't believe that for a second. One of the reports said Mac Jones threw 2 interceptions on balls he thought he could fit into tight windows. Classic rookie mistake. Cam Newton had 1 good deep ball to Nelson Aguilar. I remember that 1 good deep ball he threw to Damiere Byrd against the Texans in Week 14. The one that he
that was the one he asked for all year. Joe's
the one he had.
And apparently N'Keal Harry's tearing it up in training camp. So there's that.
Yeah, cool. Woo, great. N'Keal Harry's going to tear his hamstring before week 1, so it really doesn't matter at this point. He also looks like he packed on about 70 extra pounds this offseason, so they may realistically play him as the third tight end. next to Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. But
before we dive into teams, I want to ask Jeff, since it's his first time on the show.
Yeah.
How do you feel with these Joe Burrow reports and the Bengals wide receivers? Because on Twitter today, there was a lot of, we should have never been pumping up the Bengals wide receivers the way we were. But Jeff and I's boss, Joe Bryant, has said, I don't know if he said it publicly, but he definitely said it privately, that he is not worried about these reports coming out about Joe Burrow. So, Jeff, what is your take on that situation?
So I think that in order to win games, because this defense is going to struggle, they need to ride Joe Mixon more than what they've done in the past. And so that's my concern. Anytime you've got 3 mouths to feed, I've kind of dug into it. And you look at the players that, like Carolina was able to support 3 wide receivers last year, but they used Curtis Samuel in a hybrid role. And really to support 3 wide receivers, Pittsburgh did it, but they threw the most passes in the league. You need either volume or you need a hybrid creative role. I don't see a creative role used out of these Cincinnati wide receivers just because none of their skill sets would fit that type of how Curtis Samuel was used last year. And so if they're going to have passing volume to support 3 wide receivers, I'm a little bit skeptical that they're going to get there, especially with Joe Burrow coming off the injury and the offensive line concerns. You're going to do what you can to protect him, especially early in the season. And so I've been fading. I haven't been taking Tyler Boyd. That's the guy that kind of worries me just because, and really Jamar Chase is another guy that I haven't taken a lot of just because it seems like people are getting very aggressive on him. We started to see flashes last year from T. Higgins, and I think that he's incredibly talented and he is ready to step forward. That seems like the guy that I like the most out of them. I think that Boyd will be able to free him up a little bit. Boyd will get his usage most likely, but I don't see any upside ceiling on Boyd. He's just kind of I need to get through this week, and so I'll plug him into my lineup. And then Chase can certainly pop. But at the same time, he's coming off of not playing last year after sitting out and opting out. And so it just seems like, yeah, I don't blame anybody for fading the Cincinnati offense. And to get aggressive on Joe Burrow, we know he's not going to have the rushing floor as a quarterback. I understand you using an early pick in a dynasty on him, but man, in a redraft league, I don't know.
I like him.
Easy enough. All right, let's dive into a quarterback that is healthy. Patrick Mahomes on the Kansas City Chiefs. Last year, 14-2, same head coach, of course. Andy Reid is going to stay there. This is going to be an interesting season for them after what was arguably one of the worst performances of an offense in a Super Bowl. Like no touchdowns.
That offensive line was absolutely
atrocious.
So bad.
Yeah. Atrocious. Like I get the offensive line was terrible, and they had Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White, and Levante David on the opposite side. I get that, but like it literally looked like high school players playing against some of like the best defensive line of all time, and that's just simply the Bucs have great players. Shaq Barrett, JPP, and Ndamukong Suh, who's 34 now at this point, should not look like that in the biggest game of the year. But starting with the upsides, Ryan, you have Demarcus Robinson. Josh, you have Mecole Hardman. Take your pick on a guy that runs 4-3 opposite Tyreek Hill, and there's your upside. Downside, Ryan, Tyreek Hill, and Josh Mahomes, strictly off ADP because they're both going in the first round, if not early second round.
I'll actually give you some stats when we get to it about things I don't like about Tyreek Hill.
Okay, I love that. Trust fall, you both have Travis Kelce. I mean, you had Mahomes and Tyreek Hill as a downside, so who are you going to have as a trust fall?
5 straight 1,000-yard seasons from a tight end. Hard not to trust that.
Byron Pringle, maybe? I mean...
CEH, don't we all just trust
I figured
him
that was going to be your sleeper, Joe. I'm not even going to lie.
well, I put him as my sleeper last year. And he
2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
He actually did pretty well. When I put him as sleeper, I said, don't draft him. He ended up catching like a touchdown in week 10. So you're welcome to the people in DFS.
You drafted him and held him for
yeah.
That's a
you're welcome.
Get that one touchdown.
Yeah, remember that one touchdown? That was me. That was all me. Rookie to watch, Ryan, you have Cornell Powell. Who? And Josh of Noah Gray, another football player from Duke that will most certainly not pan out in the NFL.
What do you know?
What do you know?
We're already here.
Yep. My sleeper, Jerick McKinnon, and I will simply put, he can block. And guess who
CEH
can't?
not.
CEH can't. Guess what they both do? Catch passes and make people miss as one cutbacks. Guess who's bigger? Jerick McKinnon.
I mean, not by much, but
Not by much, but I mean, CEH is tiny. My IDP is Tyrann Mathieu. Like I said, I don't normally like repeating defensive players. Name me another defensive player on this roster you want.
Honey Badger was a part of the belt, so I'm on board. So,
and this is actually funny. It blows my mind. Tyrann Mathieu is the number 1 rated safety in Madden. I don't know why. That's incorrect. But it makes no sense to me because he actually scored.
style points for cool nicknames matter, Joe. Come on, man.
Sure, I guess. When your name's Buddha. Come on now. Your name is Buddha. Come on. But Tyrann Mathieu, he actually scored 60 less points in 2020 than he did in 2019. He did not have a good fantasy football season. He had a great football season. They didn't let him loose like they normally did last year. They kind of let Daniel Sorensen run a little loose. And I think they let their pass rush go a little more because Frank Clark, and they just let Frank Clark, Chris Jones, and I don't even know who the hell they have on the opposite side. Passanio, I think, is still there. But they kind of let that run free, and Tyrann Mathieu kind of played a more subdued role. I don't know how that transitions this year. Regardless, if you're drafting a safety, Tyrann Mathieu's still going to probably end up top 10. But don't go in there being like, oh, I need Tyrann Mathieu. If he falls to you, let him fall to you. There's no need to reach for him. And Jeff, your 2 players to watch, Jerick McKinnon and Noah Gray. I don't know. Are they good or bad? Because it just says, I don't really know. Because there's a guy playing behind Travis Kelce. And then there's a guy who, honestly, that backfield's wide open. So start with whoever you'd like to, Jeff. I'm interested.
So Noah Gray, the reports are that they've been running a lot of 12 personnel and getting creative with their usage a little bit. And he's been a standout in camp. It seems like every report that I've seen, he's been a guy that every single day he gets mentioned as running with the first team, as doing something with the first team. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce, and we love Travis Kelce. And so this offense, there's really 3 names worth talking about. I think that for the most part, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. The running backs, I feel like CH is a little bit he's like Spendy Zach Moss. It kind of seems like a little bit being in a great offense and kind of worrying about the athletic profile and the production there. So if you're going to dig deep, I just think McKinnon there has a shot of getting some real usage in the backfield in a high-octane offense. And then Noah Gray, he might slip in because, we've seen the bar to be a usable tight end 12 is very, very low. And so if he's catching passes from Patrick Mahomes, and it goes back to what we've used for a lot of these wide receivers every year, anytime you can get a Patrick Mahomes target, that's great. Maybe the value would be there on a tight end getting some of those targets versus some of these wide receivers that we've been hoping for the last couple of years.
Looking at his LinkedIn page, he did have a 3-point. What?
You pulled up LinkedIn, really?
This is amazing.
I
I
Google
love the
search Noah.
analysis.
I Google search.
No, you
Noah
are a
Gray.
man after my own heart. I love it. I love this.
Listen, he said he's been running reps with the first team, which means he has to be smart. I wanted to report on his GPA. 3.2 out of 4 GPA at Duke University. He studied poli-sci. He was an academic All-ACC in 2019, and he managed 40-plus hours per week of training, meetings, film review, and competition while maintaining a full academic course load and 3.2 GPA. First bullet point under Duke University football.
Way to be Noah Gray.
Yeah. Good job, Noah Gray. I just wanted to
probably
report.
say that out of the rookie class, that's got to be one of the stronger LinkedIn profiles, I'd imagine.
I don't know. Can we look up Jamar Chase and see if
That's
he's
the
on
first
there?
time I've ever heard a LinkedIn profile mentioned on a fantasy football podcast. So kudos to that, Joe.
And that's the reason why we're different. If you want LinkedIn profile analysis, please come to No Pun Intended, your weekly show to break down everyone's LinkedIn profile. Next
I
week,
feel like this needs to be a segment going forward.
Could be.
Weekly LinkedIn profile of whatever football
listen.
player we want to talk about.
listen, if LinkedIn wants to sponsor us,
Yes.
we'll do a player.
We will
resume.
happily take their money.
Yeah, we'll do a player profile weekly, and they'll be like our upside.
Sponsored by LinkedIn.
Sponsored by LinkedIn. Yeah.
So when I'm older, and I was in college when Facebook came out, back when you had to have a .edu email address, and it was the brand new thing. And so when I got on Facebook my junior year, I just thought of every college football player I could think of. And this was in the early days of social media, very different than it is now. And I ended up being Facebook friends with Jay Cutler. I ended up being Facebook friends with Leon Washington. And I'm still to this day Facebook friends with Leon Washington. Jay Cutler dropped me like a bad habit as soon as I made it in the league. He punted me. He probably started a new profile. But it's just funny because the internet has changed so much. Social media has changed so much since nearly 20 years ago.
Yes.
But I am still to this day Facebook friends with Leon Washington. So I appreciate that.
Jeff, you a big TikTok guy?
I try to do TikTok. I don't know if I do it well. I've done some TikToks.
Oh boy. All right, there we go. Progress. Way different from Facebook in the early 2000s.
Very different from Facebook
Very
in the early
different.
2000s.
I was 5 when
Yes,
Facebook
Joe, we
came
know
out.
you're young.
Right? 03 was Facebook, I believe, when it was launched or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. God. So
Well, back to Noah Gray.
Right?
is
Yeah,
LinkedIn
no,
I
great.
wanna
His
pull up-
athletic profile. Instead
I'm
of
sorry for
LinkedIn
bringing
profile.
you off track there, but back to
No, all I wanted to throw out is obviously I don't think anybody's advocating you're drafting Noah Gray in any sort of redraft league at this point. I won't be surprised if they're true to their word on 12 personnel that he starts popping up on some of my stream of the week lists because you're in the right offense. It's been a running saying you want a piece of that offense. And on a weekly basis, if they're truly running 60 to 70% 12 personnel, Noah Gray's a guy who's going to be catching balls from Patrick Mahomes. Why wouldn't you want that?
So I pulled a stat for my Chiefs write-up that literally hit on the 12 personnel because I was like, the Chiefs never run this. And in 2018 and 2019, they ranked 4th and 5th in highest percent of 12 personnel run. And last year, that number dipped to 18th.
And so they're
I think
just
a lot
getting
of
back
this
to what they're
talk-
used to.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of this talk is coming from, is that they want to kind of get back to that.
And then I'm going to throw out one other thing that you shouldn't say, and the fantasy community is going to crucify me for this, but if Travis Kelce gets hurt, Noah Gray's a top 5 tight end in fantasy. So
You want to put that in writing or
no, I would be far too scared. Let me be clear. I don't know how many
You might get
teams
fired from football guys if that happens.
I don't know how many teams I've drafted at this point. I would say I'm the proud manager of at least 10 teams. I would say I'm 80% in on Travis Kelce. So I don't
today
want
at the
that
4th
either.
pick.
So
I took him again today with the
Ryan, 'cause I knew I'd
1.04.
jinxed him.
yeah.
well, according to Noah Gray's player profiler, his comparison is Joel Dressen, whose comparison is Cooper Helfett, whose comparison is Joel Dressen.
Okay.
Elite
So oddly
squad.
enough, when I do my projections, I do what you just did, Joe, and I call that the circle. When I get stuck in the circle, where I'm like, I don't know who to compare these people to.
You know what's great? Cooper Helfett also went to Duke University. That's about it. Yeah, they both suck. It's that simple. They both played at Duke. They both run very slow 40-yard dashes. Cooper Helfett's agility rating is better. Why? Like, someone stop me. Like, someone tell me that we're moving on.
I'm really not impressed by Noah Gray's athletic profile. Like, at
He
all.
played
Even
college
looking
football
at it.
at Duke. Why would you be impressed with him at all?
Let's get to something way more important because Jeff just brought it up, and Jeff has a great article. The reason Jeff is on the show today, Jeff has been putting out killer work at Football Guys, and I think I've referenced it for a month straight on one of his articles on every show. Jeff has an article that is not out yet. It'll be out soon enough, where he talks about how you're handling draft picks from either the top third, the middle third, or the second third, or the final third of the first round. And Jeff and I had a discussion about this, that Travis Kelce is a very interesting case study in where people are willing to draft tight ends. And I would make the argument that I either want Christian McCaffrey or Travis Kelce in the first round. I'm willing to take Travis Kelce as high as the 102. Jeff just said he took him at the 104. That is in writing. That will be out in Jeff's article later. That's how high I'm willing to take him. Where do you guys sit? Because I know Jeff is on board with it. Where do you guys sit with how high? And Josh, you and I have had this debate before, but there are other tight ends out there as well. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm willing to take Kelce. I'd say probably about the 106, because I still feel there's a pretty confident like top 5 at the running back position. And as much as I'm like all on board with wide receivers, whoever you draft as the wide receiver 1 is not going to finish as the wide receiver 1. It's just how that goes. And the position itself is just so deep. Get the cheat code at tight end. Like that's, I mean, and it also too, it depends on the format. Like if we're talking tight end premium, like 4-eye championships where it's 2 points per reception, you could make the case that Travis Kelce goes 101.
Yeah.
Like that is,
if I had looked at scoring in that league, Travis Kelce would, even in a super flex league, 2 point per PPR tight end. Oh. Travis Kelce should have been the first pick of it. And unfortunately, I think we talked about this when I did it.
Yeah.
I didn't plug him into my projections until after I had made my pick. Largest regret of my draft. Travis Kelce.
Yeah, but I mean, I would still go McCaffrey. I would still go Cook. I would still go Kamara. Probably Derrick Henry. Probably Saquon Barkley. So I think 106 is probably the earliest that I would go Kelce. But I'm fully on board. Take the tight end early. Like if you can get Kelce, if you can get Waller. I'm more on the fence with Kittle. I think the highest I would take him is probably the 3rd round, unless it's tight end premium. But that's not a one that I love. But if I can't get Kittle or Waller, I'm probably waiting and smashing on like Jonnu Smith or some of the later round guys.
And in a premium, you can take them in the first round. I never take tight ends ever high. I don't care. I just don't do it because, I mean, Ryan, we had a case study last year. Yep. If you streamed the tight end that you chose every single week, you would have been tight end 5.
Yep.
Why draft the tight? And I know tight end 5 compared to Travis Kelce's tight end 1 is a pretty sizable gap.
But you also have to look at the gain that. But I say you also have to look at the gain you got at running back, wide receiver by not doing that. So
exactly, and that's where I'm like, I almost exclusively go 1, 2, 3 running back. And
just to clarify for those who haven't watched us before, we are not advocating drafting a middle round tight end. We are saying literally don't draft one if you can avoid it.
Or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or at the very least with one of your last 2 picks when you're not picking kicker or defense. Because the whole point is you can pick up a guy with less than 50% rostership every week and plug him in and play. All you need is a touchdown catch. We've joked about this forever. It's 7 points in a PPR league. That's literally a 7.1 because you figure he's getting a yard. So the thought process is here, and Joe has said he would not take the high guy, but Josh and I would say either take the high guy, but do not fall for the middle round trap. And the rebuttal I always get to this is, what about TJ Hawkinson? What about Kyle Pitts? Well, here's the thing.
Andrews.
I understand, and Jeff put me back on board with Mark Andrews. He's the one trap I'm willing to fall into again this year. Jeff.
Moron.
But Jeff, in the same way, got me off of TJ Hawkinson. But I digress. I just want to say, the what if is what makes them the trap. You're sitting here pipe dreaming that they're going to get to Travis Kelce land. They are not. And so with what they're going to do, they're going to go out there and they're going to be playable for 7 to 9 weeks at best. 7 to 9 weeks. And that's assuming they're good. You could have found that in free agency every week. You have to do the research. You have to hit the guys, but it's very doable. Nobody is going to Travis Kelce land.
Or you don't have to do the research and you just
listen
to our show and listen to what Ryan says. I mean, I will take tight ends in like the 11th or 12th round in like a 16 to 20 round draft or whatever. Somewhere around that area. I'm not going to reach for them. I simply look at the running backs and receivers and say, well, the running backs are garbage by round 7 at that point. And that's probably generous. They're probably garbage by 5 now. And I'll look at the receivers and I'll say, okay, there's like 25 guys that could make it to the next round, and I'm chill with having them. Like if oh no, Sterling Shepard's not going to make it in the 12th, but Emmanuel Sanders is there. Great, they're both high upside guys at that point. You're drafting them as your 5 or 6 guy. So I sit there and say, okay, if Jonnu Smith's sitting there in the 11th, I can wait on 3 more receivers in the 12th, 13th, and 14th. So that's the guy I've been taking. Josh said it earlier, Jonnu Smith, just because of how I think he fits into that offense.
For what it's worth, Jonnu is my tight end 5 in my
Jonnu.
projection.
For what it's worth, Josh had Jonnu as his tight end 5 last year, so that doesn't make me feel confident. But I'm gonna ride the wave.
I'm gonna throw one more quick thing out because I know you're about to move us along, Joe. My only knock on Tyreek Hill. I was doing some research in this in the preseason. Football Guys used to have an awesome tool where you could see how many wide receiver 1 weeks a guy had, and they just took it off despite my protest. But I'm gonna get it put back on for everybody. But anyway, I was digging into the last like 2 to 3 years, and I'm not going to remember perfect stats off the top of my head, but last year, Tyreek Hill was only a wide receiver 1, and I understand he has those weeks, but he was only a wide receiver 1 like 7 times. Over the last 3 seasons, 48 games, it's not more than 24 times. He has not been a wide receiver 1 more than 50% of the games that he's played. You're spending such high draft capital, and keep in mind, this is not just a knock on Tyreek. His is abnormally low, but what he does is drags you up in those huge league winning games. It's a lot like this for a ton of wide receivers. The diversity is such that you don't need to spend high draft capital on any of them. But Tyreek right now is demanding a back end first round pick, and I'm just not willing to do that. So
he's Amari Cooper now. What Amari Cooper used to
and but everyone is becoming that. The studies I'm starting to see is that's what the NFL has become. Is you're what we used to knock Amari Cooper for 4 years ago is what every wide receiver is now. And so you have to guess right and hope for the best, but that's not how you spend a first round pick in fantasy football.
No. And I think that the running backs are so valuable. And like you mentioned, they fall off the board so fast that if you don't take a tight end, you have to go running back. But I just think that there's so much value in where I'm seeing Darren Waller fall because he's falling. I feel like Darren Waller should be a first round pick, to be honest with you, because end of first round pick, because I look at it and I game it out and I say, if you're the 109 or the 110, is he going to get back to you? And right now he will, but at the same time, I don't know. I just think that you should grab him at like the 112 because you're not going to get him coming back in the 3rd round. So if you need to get in there and do it, I like getting an anchor running back and an elite tight end. And then I like to keep my wide receiver room on a redraft team relatively thin because, I only want to roster 4 or 5 at most. And then I will just fill the rest of my roster with running backs and just load them up. And then somebody gets hurt, they see utility because that's what happens. Guys move in there and you're not playing. Yes, there is that variable best guessing game with every receiver. But if you're stacking 3 top 20 wide receivers in there, you're going to be accounting for the down weeks with the boom weeks with the other guys. And you're going to have enough volatility, enough high upside there that you're going to be past and win many weeks.
Agreed.
Something to add on Tyreek Hill, if defenses or if teams watch the Super Bowl for one drive, they know how to stop Tyreek Hill and that entire Chiefs offense. It's very simple.
Well, you just got to get past the offensive line. I'm hoping that Andy Reid has fixed that issue.
Well, and they
invested in it.
They invested in it, and I think that maybe that's part of running more 12 personnel too. That Patrick Mahomes said, "Hey, extra protection. I'll run for my life in the playoffs, but we got 17 games to get there. That you don't need me doing that. You don't need my foot getting hurt in week 12, and then I'm dragging along a bum foot for the rest of the season."
I'm not talking about have 2 all-pro pass rushers on opposite sides and 2 ridiculous linebackers in the middle. I'm saying you run high-low on Tyreek Hill, and that's the game. The Patriots literally have been doing it for 5 seasons. Yep. And Tyreek Hill has never had a good game. He's had 1 good game against the Patriots. They didn't run high-low on the plays where he beat them. It's that simple. High-low, let Travis Kelce catch 25 passes. He's not beating you over the top. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a bowling ball that doesn't really bowl well.
And that's why they need guys like Hardman and Robinson to truly step their game up.
But they suck.
I'm just saying that's what they need, though. So.
Agreed. McCole Hardman can't run a route. Like, McCole Hardman's not going to run a slant route or an in route well. Tyreek Hill's not going to do that well either, mind you be. They run straight. That's what their offense is built off of. Travis Kelce's the best route runner on that team, and that blows my mind. Travis Kelce's a good route runner, but he's like 260.
He shouldn't be beating every wide receiver.
He should not be beating every wide receiver and every running back on that roster as best route runner. Now, Jerick McKinnon might argue for best route runner on that team now, but it's Travis Kelce as starters. It's not even close. Tyreek Hill's not a good route runner. He runs a 4.2 40. No one can beat that. How do you beat it? You put a safety 20 yards down the field and say, you're not going this far. Like, Deron Harmon for the Pats, at the snap of the ball, he wasn't even looking at the ball. He was turning and running to match Tyreek Hill. Like, that's how you beat them. And this is why the Bucs are your 2022 Super Bowl champions, is because their defense is the exact same. And Kansas City will go 11-6. I already put in my bet for Kansas City under 12.5 wins at even money. Book it. Book it. 11-6. If you can bet actual record, I would. I don't think you can, though. At least on the book I have, you cannot. So, preview of a potential show that is going to be happening in season, right, Josh?
There you go.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
It's a goal.
All right.
I got to find somebody to work with you on that one.
All right, let's dive into the Bucs here. Obviously, last year's Super Bowl champions, 11-5, same coach, Bruce Arians. Upside, a lot of agreement here, so we're gonna have to start throwing punches a little bit with this team. But upside, you both have Antonio Brown, Ryan, and Josh. Downside, Ryan, Mike Evans, Josh, Rojo. Trust fall, both have Tom Brady. Rookie to watch, both say Jalen Darden. My sleeper is Leonard Fournette. I would put Antonio Brown, but obviously he's the upside for both of these guys. I don't know. He's the best running back on the team and is going in like the 7th round. I mean, it's crowded, obviously. Like, you're not drafting him to be one of your starting running backs, but I mean, if Rojo goes down, it's Fournette's backfield, and vice versa as well. If Fournette goes down, it's Rojo's backfield. My IDP is Antoine Winfield Jr. You could realistically draft any safety, linebacker, or defensive lineman on this team and be happy. I went with Levante David last year because of his consistency. Devin White is a way too obvious pick that I did not just want to be like, oh, I'm going to be right on Devin White. No, Antoine Winfield, I think he'll be a top 20 defensive back this year in fantasy. 205 points his rookie season is a lot for a rookie. So getting over that threshold, extra game, the only thing that caps his upside is Devin White is faster than him. And Devin White will get 2 more tackles faster than Antoine Winfield. But I think Winfield will have a few more pass breakups this year. They will send him on more blitzes, is my guess, because Todd Bowles doesn't give an F about the offense and what they run. He will run an engage 8 on like 3rd and long, New York Jets style. So I like Antoine Winfield a lot this year. Again, not as your starter, but definitely a great backup to potentially fill in with that piss poor division that they play in. He'll have 6 easy games every single year. All right, Jeff, you got 2 running backs that weren't mentioned, Gio and Ronald Jones. Who do you want to start with? Why do you have them?
I can start with Gio Bernard, and I look at that as they brought LaShawn McCoy last year in to serve a very specific role, and he didn't do the job. And so then they came out in free agency, and they brought in Gio Bernard. And we've seen Tom Brady's usage with a pass-catching running back in the past. We've seen the success in PPR of a pass-catching running back from Tom Brady in the past. Now, I'm not saying that Gio Bernard is going to be James White. I think that that's very aggressive. But when you've got a running back that's landing around ADP 60, you can get at the very end of your draft. I believe he's the cheapest entry point into this, what might be the best offense in the league, reality-wise, that a guy that will see the field and a guy that will see usage. We've seen camp reports that he's been catching balls from Tom Brady every day, and I believe that they were looking for a back that could fill a very specific role. Tom Brady was tired of putting up with the drops from Leonard Fournette and drops from Ronald Jones and the missed assignments and whatever else that came with those 2 running backs. And I just think that they were targeted a player that they were looking for. They got him in Gio Bernard, and I think that we've seen him. Gio Bernard's one of those guys that everybody's ready to write off, but every year it just seems like Gio Bernard reaches fantasy utility by hell or high water. He just gets there somehow.
Yeah, it always finds like a couple of weeks where he pops, and you're just like, oh crap. Okay.
And you're like, oh, I forgot about him 2 years ago. No, there's still Gio Bernard, and I just think they're going to use him in the role. And I again, like I mentioned, I just think he's the cheapest entry point to get to a very good offense. And then Ronald Jones is the other guy I mentioned. I just think he's going to run away with the job. And it might be a hot take, maybe it's not, and I don't mean it as a hot take, but I think Leonard Fournette's going to get cut. I just do, because I think he's the type of guy that's going to be a distraction. I don't think that Tom Brady's going to put up with it. I don't think he's going to be happy not having a role in the offense. I just think he's going to get phased out between these two guys, and they're just going to decide Tom Brady is not going to take anything, and neither is Bruce Arians. They're going to decide, hey, yeah, we can move on from this guy for the role that we're going to have him play. Keyshawn Vaughn can do something, or we can whoever else is on the roster. I just feel like that's, I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take, and I sincerely don't mean it as such. I'm just reading the tea leaves, and I just think there's a very clear role for Gio Bernard, and I just think Ronald Jones is a better running back than Leonard Fournette.
So my counter argument to the attitude of Leonard Fournette is Antonio Brown ?
Well, he's Tom Brady. He made sleepovers with Tom Brady. He's Tom Brady's buddy. They do sleepovers. They probably are watching Netflix and whatever. Tom Brady doesn't eat a carb, so I'm sure they're probably just, I don't even know what they would eat. Not tomatoes, obviously, but no, I think that he's close with Tom Brady.
They do grapes out of each other's mouth while Giselle takes photos.
That's right.
Yeah, so they can remember the memories of them playing in Tampa Bay together.
There you go. Yeah. I don't even have, like, it does come off as, I don't want to say you're trying to be hot takey. It is a hot take for me. I actually see Fournette as the better of the two backs. I've been a guy who believed in Ronald Jones. I think Fournette's going to end up outplaying him.
Yeah.
I basically see those two splitting work on first and second down. And if Gio ends up taking all third downs, Gio does end up being the most relevant of all of these. As we've talked about a million times, targets are just so much more valuable. Mm-hmm. And I agree. He's likely not going to, everyone loves painting him into the James White role. And that's probably not what it's going to be. Because when Brady was doing what he was doing with James White, he didn't have Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin at wide receiver as well. Yep. Plus still has Gronk. So that's a little shocking to me, because I have Fournette as by only 4 fantasy points, the better of the two backs right now. But if what you said were to come true, Ronald Jones is going to end up being a steal in fantasy drafts like that. Yeah. That's a very interesting take to me. Love Gio in that pass catching role. Like, again, if Gio had just not shaved his mustache, I think I would have been the conductor of the Gio Bernard hype train in this whole thing. Because I was really hoping Keyshawn Vaughn was going to end up being a thing. I desperately tried to get him in multiple rookie drafts last year. Josh is aware. They all blew up in my face, but then it turns out none of them blew up in my face because, God, he was awful.
He was bad.
I think the writing on the wall is probably there for him, them going out and getting Gio. But again, going back to you, if they do cut Fournette, then Keyshawn still has a role as a true backup running back to Ronald Jones, and the whole thing is just crazy to me. But if that happens, I'll find a way to sing your praises from the mountains, because that's just nuts to me. But I don't know that
I don't know that I'm on board with the Tampa Bay is going to cut Fournette. Like, they gave him a guaranteed $3 million contract. So I think from a contract,
and maybe it's a hot take. I don't mean it.
Yeah, and that's fine. If he hadn't have just re-upped with them and maybe it was like a veteran minimum, I'd probably be a little bit more on board with that idea. But again, it is still a 1-year deal. Could very well happen. I mean, he was still on his rookie contract when Jacksonville said, "Get the hell out of our town." So, all of the advanced metrics and all of the statistics tell you that Ronald Jones is far and away better than Leonard Fournette.
Yeah,
absolutely better. But we all know the NFL is all about what have you done for me lately? What did Leonard Fournette do for the Tampa Bay Bucs? He helped them win the Super Bowl.
Playoff winning.
So, he was the one that was chugging along and doing what we all thought and probably hoped for some of us that Ronald Jones would do. And I don't think Bruce Arians is going to be the guy that forgets about that. And Tom Brady will have zero issue doing it because he's got 7 freaking rings. So he's going to be like, well, if you're not going to help me get an 8th, get the hell out of here. I don't care. So, but again, it's going to boil down to the organizational aspect of it. I know we've had issues with Fournette and kind of the attitude, whatever it may be, but he took a smaller deal to come back. Not to say that he would have gotten more money on the free agent market, but obviously this wasn't the size of the rookie contract. He probably thinks he's better than what he is getting paid, etc. But he wants to go out for that other championship. And we've all seen what Tom Brady and that attitude that he brings has brought to that organization. And I think you're seeing people buy into that. He's helping to change the culture there. So I'm not as concerned about the attitude per se of Fournette, but that's really why I have Ronald Jones as my downside, because again, I think we're all presuming that Ronald Jones is going to be that lead dog. But is he? Well, there's really no guarantee that he's going to be at this
point. I wasn't assuming that until
Jeff
told me Leonard Fournette was getting cut. Now I don't know what to assume.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't think any of us really truly know. Like, again, all the metrics tell us Ronald Jones is better. But Ronald Jones isn't Lombardi Lenny. So, again, cool playoff nicknames, cool nicknames in general. They got swag. Like, That's just kind of how that goes. So we'll see.
I do think that Ryan touched on a good point where if we know that Gio is locked in that pass catching role and we know what Gio's role is going to be, and if they're riding hot hands between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, maybe not ceiling or points wise, but you could almost make the argument that Gio would be a more valuable fantasy piece just because the entry price to get in, along with the role that we know that's going to be there, plus the value of getting targets in this offense. So I just think that right now, I mean, if you're buying Gio Bernard at running back 57, I saw the other day in Fantasy Pros, or 60 or whatever it might be.
55
right this
55,
second.
Yeah, you're buying him as your 5th or 6th running back, and you feel like he's going to have a role, a valuable role, regardless of injury. So many guys, and certainly I'm not advocating taking him over a guy like Tony Pollard, who might actually have a role in Dallas's offense, but also has league swinging upside if Zeke goes down. But when you're throwing those darts, it just feels like there's a lot of backs that are in crowded backfields. Like, would you rather have would you rather have Gio Bernard or Singletary in Buffalo? Because you don't know what you're getting for Singletary in Buffalo, whereas, I feel like you know what you're going to get potentially with Gio Bernard.
I like it.
Yeah, I would play Would You Rather with Gio Bernard, but it's literally Rashad Penny, Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Gainwell, and Darrell Williams, and I really think the only guy that you could argue there is Kenneth Gainwell. And that potentially Chuba, if you're anticipating, McCaffrey not being healthy or as healthy. We all know why Giovanni Bernard's in Tampa. It is no secret. They are not dressing it up. He is the best pass catcher in the short game for them out of the backfield. Not even close. Ryan, why are you making roster moves while we're in the middle of a show?
I saw that alert. I'm like, what's going on here?
Let's see. The Fantasy 5 has made a roster move in your Dynasty League. Ryan has picked up Giovanni Bernard and dropped Jordan Akins.
Good move. I like the good move.
Mind you, he just picked up Jordan Akins this morning, 9 hours ago.
That sounds like how I do. Yeah, I'm that guy in every league that, Jeff has added and dropped this guy 5 times this week.
Wow, what a guy. What a guy.
It was the right move to make.
Apparently. Man, okay, so it's so differing opinions here that doing a would you rather with the running backs is tough, because clearly Jeff thinks Fournette's cut. So it would be, it could be Samaje Perine, and he would draft him over Leonard Fournette because Fournette's getting cut.
But you could make the argument that what if Fournette landed in Atlanta, or what if Fournette landed with the Jets or something like that? I'm just saying.
We talked about Fournette landing in Atlanta all offseason, and then Fournette said, F you guys.
Yeah, that's all I wanted.
Yeah. No, God, if he was in...
taste of a championship, he knows Atlanta ain't going there.
Yeah.
If
Kansas
he
City.
was... Yeah, well, Kansas City's going 11-6 and losing in the second round of the playoffs, so...
You can cover my Buffalo Bills. We can finally win the Super Bowl.
There you go.
There you go. All right. I will play with the receivers, though, because Mike Evans, correct me if I'm wrong, has not had a single season under 1,000 yards.
Nope.
Every season he's played, he's had over 1,000 yards.
Only wide receiver in NFL history with 7 straight.
To start a career, I believe.
To start a career, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is absurd. Now, from a fantasy perspective, a lot tougher. Not the most consistent guy,
Yep. He's up and
especially
down.
with everyone there right now. But let's play the Would You Rather game. Again, I've invented on this show. We told Jeff, invented on this show. No one had ever played Would You Rather before. Mike Evans is sitting at wide receiver 13. So he's technically the first wide receiver 2 off the board. We're playing this as you have drafted 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. 12 or 10 team, I don't care. Whatever you want to play in your little mind. This is the game. That part you can make up. You are drafting your first receiver right now in the 3rd round because there's absolute crap in like the 307 at running.
This is a very real scenario that people are going to run into this year. So.
This is why we play the game, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So your wide receiver 1. This is who you're drafting as your wide receiver 1. And also, I'm not doing the 2 above because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think most people would take Allen Robinson and CeeDee Lamb over Mike Evans. You can tell me if I'm wrong, any of you, but I think all of you would do that. So we're doing everyone below Mike Evans because those are technically all the wide receiver 2s right now. And I know the room here isn't the biggest fan of Mike Evans, but some of these names might have you thinking.
Real life Mike Evans is fantastic.
Yes.
Fantasy Mike Evans.
Plus, he has the Deathly Hallows symbol tattooed on his forearm, so he's my favorite player in the NFL.
Oh, okay. Cool. Cool tidbit, I guess.
I'm a Harry Potter nerd.
No, I mean, I looked up a LinkedIn profile
this
today,
show's
so
got
definitely
everything.
not the...
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Love
I
it.
looked up a LinkedIn profile today. It's definitely not the weirdest thing said on the show. Okay. As your wide receiver 1, Mike Evans or Julio Jones? Jeff, I just want the name. I don't even want an explanation.
Julio Jones.
Ballsy. Josh.
I think I would take Mike Evans.
Okay. Ryan?
I know I would take Mike Evans.
Yeah, I would also take Mike Evans. I don't
Yeah,
want either
Evans
of them.
at 21 and Julio at 24. So yeah, I would go Evans. Not by much, but I would go Evans.
I don't like either of them, but Evans. I mean, when you look at it, neither of them are the option 1 in their offense. Especially
At the end of the day, I
Tennessee.
think Mike Evans has higher touchdown potential. So that's
Definitely.
going to play well for me. Yeah.
And again, however you want to break down the targets in Tampa, Evans is probably the second guy, if not one very close next to however you want, Godwin or Antonio Brown, whoever you want to iron that out.
Yeah,
Julio Jones is the solidified 3 in his offense, which Julio Jones being the 3rd option in his offense is utterly insane. But after Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, Jeff, you look like you disagree there.
So Tennessee's got a new offense coordinator, and they put all that mileage on Derrick Henry last year. I just think they're going to try to throw a little bit more than what they did last year, and maybe throw a little bit more than what people are expecting, because they make that big move to go out there and get Julio. And you look at last year, a lot of what their offense, A.J. Brown was hurt. I think he had surgery in both knees right after the season, and they essentially ran their offense through one target. They've got guys like Khalif Raymond running around, running routes, and they were using Ferkster last year still. They kind of phased Jonnu Smith out for some reason, and
He was blocking because Taylor Lewan was hurt.
Yeah. And so I just think that they made an aggressive move to go get Julio Jones for a reason, and I think they're going to use him a little bit more. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Julio get more targets than Mike Evans. And then when we're talking about touchdown upside, again, I think Tennessee's going to be a very good offense. And so it wouldn't, I don't know, if you're chasing touchdowns, I would rather chase volume when I'm looking at running back or looking at wide receivers in this range. I want to make sure that I'm grabbing volume, and I feel like touchdowns could be the type of thing where I would very much expect Mike Evans to score a lot of touchdowns, because Mike Evans is very good at scoring touchdowns. But at the same time, if he scored 6 and Julio scored 12, would anybody be shocked? I don't know that that'd be the case. You would be?
Yeah. Julio has one season in his entire career with double-digit touchdowns.
I said we're all going to laugh when we find out Matt Ryan was the problem.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, this is a guy that's
I
played
get
10 years in the league, 60 total touchdowns. He literally averages 6 touchdowns a season.
Well, he is the guy
Mike
that just
Evans?
doesn't get in the end zone. So, and you're right.
Yeah.
You do make a good point.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans is a double, like, three years at 12, 13. The last 3 years have been 8, 8, and 13. Like, he gets in the end zone. He finds ways to get there.
Yeah.
Remember on Thursday Night Football when he had 2 catches against the Chicago Bears for 5 yards
2 yards.
and 2
I thought it
touchdowns?
was 2 yards, but yeah.
And I was, yeah,
Yeah.
Julio Jones would never have that stat line, ever.
No.
because
No.
he's going to get more volume. I just think.
I was going to say, yeah, and Jones is a yard.
But it's still not going to equal 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's fair. All right. Mike Evans or Robert Woods, Jeff?
Mike Evans.
Josh?
Bobby Trees.
Ryan?
Trees.
Damn. Sorry, Jeff. Woods.
He's hanging me out here. I'm not playing the game right.
We're veterans. It's okay. You'll figure it out.
I mean, it's just he has a better quarterback than he's had the last 3 seasons. And he's the option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mike Evans or Amari Cooper, Jeff?
I'm afraid to answer now.
Oh, I would be afraid to answer this question as well. Yeah.
So I will. It's out there in public. I actually got both of these players in Scott Fishbowl at the 6th and 7th round turn, and I took Mike Evans before I took Amari Cooper.
Okay, so Mike Evans, Josh,
I would go Cooper by a mile.
Ryan.
Lose the
It's
game again.
Totally Cooper for me.
Damn, Jeff, I hate Amari Cooper with a burning passion. You have no idea. He will have 200 targets this year in that offense. Amari Cooper. I mean, Jeff even said it, though. He took both guys. So, like, it's very clear. It's neck and neck.
Let me be clear. If you could get Cooper and Evans as your 1-2,
That's a good punch.
There's going to be a week where you double your league up.
They were my 3-4 at wide receiver.
Ooh.
I got
Who's your
DK.
1-2?
I got DK and AJ Brown as my 1-2, and I handcuffed them. Or I paired them up with Wilson and Tannehill. So I'm running stacks on those two with
Congrats.
Cooper and Evans
on
as
winning
my
your division.
That tells
3-4.
me that you have.
And I've got
nothing
Darren
to
Waller
run back.
at tight end. Actually, well, I do. I got Daryl Henderson at running back now, and I
Okay.
AJ Dillon. I got Naeem
That zero
Hines.
RBs
I
paying
got Gio
off, baby.
Bernard. I'm telling you.
Wow. I was able to stack Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and DJ Chark in the 4-eyed draft. So I guess, there's that.
Jeff, I also landed Henderson and Scott Fish. And if I remember correctly, there was that guy who did the power ratings of each division. I think he had you and I both winning our divisions. And I think it was probably because we got Henderson.
Yes.
And it was right after the Cam Akers news.
It was right after the injury, and I was number 2 overall in that guy's ratings for the entire Scott.
Boom.
So
Oh, yeah, well,
With that wide receiver core.
I got Jerry Jeudy too. Jerry Judy's like my wide receiver 5. I forget what my other draft pick was. Because I loaded up. I took 7 wide receivers in a row, and then I just loaded up at running backs late.
Boom.
All right. Couple more here.
Let's do it.
I am going to skip 17 because it's his teammate, Chris Godwin.
Oh, I think that's where the fun debate starts. But let's go ahead. Let's play by your rules, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... Ray, raise your hands. Who would take Mike Evans?
All right.
There's your fun debate. Ryan, everyone would take Chris Godwin. There's your fun debate. That's the
didn't
first
lose
time we
that time.
agreed. That's literally the first time we agreed on this whole thing.
Boom.
God, Ryan, let me do my job.
I know. You're
You
so
have to
good,
let
Joe.
Jeff feel welcome in the group with this. So.
Yeah, we could have made Jeff feel better about the last 2 rounds, but never
One
mind.
of
Let's
us.
go to 18.
One of us. Okay. Mike Evans or Adam Thielen, Jeff?
Mike Evans. I'm just not doing Thielen. I'm just not. Sorry.
Josh?
Yeah, give me Evans. I'm out on Thielen.
Ryan?
I think I'm the only one not out on Thielen, but I would still take Mike Evans. So,
Yeah, I have Thielen as wide receiver 38.
I know.
Way
What?
out on Thielen.
I hate you so much.
sees
I
this.
do think Jefferson's just going to pop. I think Jefferson's got a great case to be wide receiver number 1 overall this year. Just the way that
And I
I love
don't
that.
disagree, but Thielen doesn't have to die for it to happen.
But really, he kind of survived off the red zone usage last year. So
yeah, and if they do end up transferring that usage to Irv Smith, which has kind of been like the training camp talk today, that he's lighting it up in the red zone, and I mean that I don't think there's enough red zone usage for Cook, Irv Smith, and Thielen. So somebody's getting cut out of that pie, and I know for a fact it's not Dalvin Cook.
Okay, so
Jefferson.
I'll weigh in here. I had the privilege of shooting the All-Star game for our league, for the Northwoods League, Adam Thielen throughout the first pitch, and I was going to ask him, hey, if I draft you in a charity fantasy league, can you guarantee me top 24 wide receiver production? Because I already have your coworker, Justin Jefferson. I didn't get the chance to ask him that, so I have no confidence he finishes where he should, Mike Evans. That's my reasoning.
I like it.
That's my sound
because
reasoning.
Because he couldn't answer your...
Well, for the record, I didn't ask him the question because he was
expert fantasy analysis right here.
Also,
I would have said, dude, it's July. Like, give me a break.
Also, his fastball was 66 miles per hour, bounced about 20 feet in front of the plate. It was atrocious. So,
now I got to move him down my rankings.
Yep. Now you got to move him down because his fastball
we
is
should know.
atrocious.
We should know the LinkedIn's and the fastball speeds for every
Yeah.
wide receiver before we go and rank anything.
Yeah. The only one I can report on for fastball speed is Adam Thielen. That's literally the only one I can report on because I witnessed it in person. Okay. 2 more. And they're not in order here. Mike Evans or DJ Moore? Jeff.
DJ Moore.
Josh.
DJ Moore. No,
Ryan.
wait, hang on. Evans. Yeah, Evans. Sorry.
Okay.
That's my
Ryan.
See, this is where I have to go against my own projections. I have Evans projected higher, but I know what I'm getting with the boomer bust. If I'm drafting my first wide receiver, I'm taking DJ Moore.
Wow. I am also taking DJ Moore. And this is why we play this game. DJ Moore is according to FantasyPros, being drafted 3 rounds after Mike Evans.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You don't even have to have this debate.
You don't have to have the debate. But what I'm saying is, how high Mike Evans is going, and you'd rather have a guy in DJ Moore who is wide receiver 21 compared to wide receiver 13 as your wide receiver 1. And there's a couple other guys that I'm going to ask here that I think are probably going to get the same answer. So, Deontay Johnson or Mike Evans? I don't need to ask Josh. I know Josh's answer. Jeff.
I would go Mike Evans there.
Okay. Ryan.
You're off the show. Bye, Josh. Get out of here.
Josh fully indoctrinated me last year. It's Deontay Johnson. I'm solely behind Josh in that line at this point.
I love Deontay Johnson, and I have a lot of Deontay Johnson, but I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see. Do we all just, and obviously not Jeff, but do the rest of us just hate Mike Evans too much at this point?
I would do Deontay Johnson as well. I mean, it's very similar.
For me, it boils
offenses.
down to targets with him. He's going to blow Mike Evans out of the water when it comes to targets.
I was going to say, it's very similar offenses. 3 very good receivers, all competing for targets. And now Pittsburgh has a running back, too, so you can add that into the mix. Very similar offenses when it comes to how they want to run and what they want to do. So, I don't know. Yeah, targets is the big thing with Deontay Johnson there. And then the last one, because he keeps falling. And if I told you Michael Thomas would be a mid-6th round pick 2 years ago, you would say, what? So Michael Thomas or Mike Evans? Jeff.
Is this Dynasty? Because in redraft, I'm not taking Michael Thomas.
Okay.
No, it's just who would you rather have? Yeah, that's. I'm sorry to cut Josh off because I know I'm jumping out of line here. It's Mike Thomas is likely not to play. He's likely to pup. There's no way. That's not even.
Oh, he's not even. Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's out. I've seen him go.
Yeah, I don't think
10th,
Fantasy
11th
Pros'
round.
ADP has been adjusted as a result. I was about to use a very popular Twitter phrase and just say Mike Evans, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I say
That's
Thomas is likely to pup. You're at this point.
To be fair, I have Mecole Hardman ahead of Michael Thomas in my rankings. So
if you play in a league that doesn't allow IR, keep an eye on Thomas to get cut about week 4 to 6. And if you have the bench spot, gobble him up at that point. It might end up being nothing, but at least you didn't pay any draft capital for him. But Thomas, essentially, until his ADP falls insanely, and this only works if you have an IR spot, Thomas is undraftable at this point. So,
All right, last one.
Wide receiver 55.
Okay. So terrible.
he's like 38 for me, but I'm projecting him at 11 games. And so I just don't know how that's going to shake out when it's all said and done.
There you go. All right, last one. Again, this is not something where you could easily take both of these guys and probably 2 receivers in between. I'm just interested. Who would you rather have as your wide receiver 1? Mike Evans or Jamar Chase? Jeff?
I'll go Mike Evans there.
Okay. Josh?
Very easily Mike Evans.
Ryan?
It's Mike Evans for me as well.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just want to put a little spice in there. If I said T. Higgins, does that change anyone's mind?
No.
Not
Yes.
me. I have Chase above Higgins. I say I know Josh doesn't, but
I have Higgins 1 spot above Mike Evans.
Okay, so there you go. So again, and T. Higgins is wide receiver 29. I'm just
He's
putting it
my wide
out there,
receiver 20.
and I'm just putting it out there. There's so many like gems at receiver that you can get in the middle rounds. Going back to the conversation about Tyreek Hill, there's no need to draft Tyreek Hill in the first round. There's just no need. And Ryan gave you straight facts. We've gone through multiple receivers that we can see being high upside guys that you don't need to spend a first round pick on. You spend an 8th round pick on. And they're probably going to be more consistent than Tyreek Hill is. So just something to add in there. Okay. Josh, what are we doing to end the show? I don't really know. You wrote a lot
You
here.
want me to do all of the announcements first?
Well, first,
Jeff,
yes.
Thank you.
No, I did, guys.
Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Feel free to stick around, Jeff, but we've kept you for an hour, and we know you have family and a lot going on, so feel free to jump off as well. But before you go, I'll let Joe jump in here. And
Yeah, guys, geez, the whole setup was I wasn't going to let Josh...
we clearly don't trust Joe.
Yeah, the whole setup was I wasn't going to let Josh do anything because he would screw it up. So the next thing I was going to say would be, Jeff, thank you, but they already stole that from me. Jeff, one time before we get into all of this here to wrap up the show, where can we find you and your work?
I've got written work that's come out with Football Guys right now, and a couple more things that I'm working with Ryan to get in the pipeline. And then I've got written work with Fantasy. You can find podcast. I do Tuesday night or 9:30. The Devy Royale is a Devy show that I do on the Going for Two network. And then Coming Off the Edge, it's just it's a fun hangout show that we don't have any sort of plan that we go in. And it's just me and my friends, and we wherever we take off and flow with, and we just try to have a good time.
Absolutely love it. And his Twitter is at for whom J Bell tolls. For those listening on the podcast, I will spell that out for you. It is the number 4, capital WHOM, capital J, capital BELL, capital TOLLS. What a mouthful! I love it though. Is there a reasoning behind the name?
I'm not a very creative guy. I feel like I don't know. I was just trying to think of a name, and the Metallica song was like in my head about for whom the bell tolls, and so let's see if I can turn that into a Twitter handle. I feel like whenever it comes to usernames, I'm just terrible at them, and for some reason I just lucked into something with Twitter.
I love it. No, that's perfect. Awesome.
That was the first thing I thought of. I figured the Metallica song had something to do with it. So well done, Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Too young to know, so I apologize for not being as hip as as the peep. So Jeff, again, feel free if you need to leave, please. By all means, you got the green light. But we are just gonna wrap up here.
I'll take off. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. So, big announcements that you may have already heard us talk about is what it says in the show sheet. Should I get more excited? Do I need to get more amped here?
God, I hope so.
Oh, God, give me a second. Okay. Next week, it's officially time. I'm gonna lower my mic volume here so I'm not like blowing people's ears out. We step aside. I don't know if you heard that. Aside, as we let Lauren and Faith slide into our seats. For some reason, I thought it was about to say slide into our DMs because I'm a millennial, and that's exactly what the phrase
Good
is.
Lord.
That's exactly what I don't know why, just me guessing. Slide into our seats. They will be taking mine and Josh's spot, while in Ryan's spot will be 8 amazing guests, 9 if you consider 2 of them being a tandem. Kate and Michelle, God, please someone say the last name. Magdzuik. I always butcher it. Kate and Michelle from BallBlast will be on next week, along with Stacie Stern, who is the chairperson of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. So that is a week from today. Faith and Lauren will be hosting our second annual Women of Fantasy Football shows, and they will be our guests next week. Kate Michelle from BallBlast, Stacie Stern from the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. You want me to just go through? I'm going to go through all of them because
do it.
Well, I wrote them.
Wait, give me 2 seconds. I want to put it out on Twitter that we're about to hype this up and see if we can get more people in here. So
1, 2. Let me know. No, I was just gonna say. So beginning today as well, we are raffling off a signed Travis Kelce football and the greatest tight end to ever live, Kyle Pitts.
Hall of Fame tight end. Get it
Hall
right,
of
Joe.
Fame, greatest to ever live. Who's Rob Gronkowski? Kyle Pitts, the greatest tight end to ever live.
All right.
The
And
raffle
I
is
tweeted.
officially live.
Woo! I believe
WomenOfFantasyFootball.com. Click
Very
on
simple.
the Win Me graphic. Buy your raffle tickets. $5. As many as you want to buy. All the proceeds go to charity.
Josh spent hours in WordPress, so please, just
Yes,
if you don't-
please. Because that's the biggest freaking headache of my life.
Yeah, please, for Josh's sake, just do it. Okay, 8/18, so that's 2 weeks from today. Liz Loza, who was our first guest ever on Women of Fantasy Football from Yahoo Fantasy, she'll be joining us. And Melissa Jacobs, the founder of The Football Girl, will be joining us as well that week. And I say us
It's also
as in
written
Faith
with
and Lauren.
SI and ESPN also.
Yes.
Love it.
Great work.
And then after next week's show, again, we're doing themes. So this week, your raffle items will be tight ends. Next week, your raffle items will be, or the week after will be wide receivers, which is a Devontae Adams jersey and a Justin Jefferson jersey, both signed Packers and Vikings, respectively. 8/25, August 25th, 3 weeks from today. ESPN's Stefania Bell.
Woo! Heard of her?
Yeah, heard of her.
Just
And
maybe.
NFL on Fox reporter Laura Oakman as well will be on the show.
Crushing it.
August 25th. And that week will be a signed Christian McCaffrey Panthers jersey and a JT Colts jersey. The last
Jonathan
show,
Taylor for you non-cool kids.
Jonathan Taylor, not Justin Timberlake. Although
That
the
would
cool-
probably do well as well.
Yeah, the cool kids would know. Imagine a signed Justin Timberlake blazer. Oh, that would go off. Okay, and then going into September on the 1st, our final Women of Fantasy Football show for the second year will feature everyone's favorite Twitter personality, Cooter Doodle of MB Fantasy Life, and Renee Miller, who writes with The Athletic and NBC Sports Edge. And obviously, for the last week, we saved for the most important position in football, the quarterback. Signed Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson jerseys, Bills and Ravens, respectively, as well there. Loaded. Absolutely.
The raffles are
loaded.
amazing.
Yeah, the raffles are amazing. The guests are amazing. The hosts are amazing. Am I forgetting anything else that's amazing? I feel like that hits base. Oh, Josh's web design, amazing.
Yes.
Not really, but thank you.
No, you did a
Okay.
great job, buddy.
C+ job at best, according to
I'll
Josh.
take it.
Very self-critical. No, it's going to be an awesome next 4 weeks. Gives us
Plus, you
time-
don't have to deal with us.
Yeah, I was about to say. Gives us time to step back. We will make the occasional appearance to welcome guests in or give off the raffle prizes, whatever it may be. But for the most part, it is all Faith and Lauren focusing on the Women of Fantasy Football. Again, 9 incredible guests over 4 shows. The tandem being Kate and Michelle from BallBlast who are also on with us year one. We have a couple of repeats, which is awesome. And I just saw a tweet, I believe, Ryan, you quote tweeted it earlier, that one of our guests from last year is back in fantasy football.
Brandon Marianne Lee drops an article out of nowhere today.
Awesome.
Yep. Like I said, that's out there for The Athletic. Definitely worth checking out. Anytime she puts information out, you want that information in your head before you fantasy draft. So
wanted to give that shout out because I saw the quote tweet and I didn't see who quote tweeted. Then I look up and see Ryan, and I imagine him running around his house, taking his shirt off and waving it around because he's so excited. And Brandon was amazing last year.
Yes.
I believe she was on our final show. So she was incredible. Obviously, congratulations to her putting out her first article, a couple years now, I think, at this point.
Yeah, she had taken about 2 years off. So this one's almost a mailbag type thing where she gets into how to draft at the turn. Is it worth the positional advantage to attack top QBs? And like I said, I've said this story 1,000 times. I tell Brandon anytime I talk to her. Brandon is one of the most accepting, nicest people, such great fantasy knowledge, and she makes it just look easy. And I know she puts a ton of work in, but anything she puts out, it's worth your time.
Yep. Go check that out. That was one of the last things I wanted to give the shout out because I know that happened. But one more time, let's see if I can do this very, very excitedly. If you can't tell, I am a little stuffy, so I apologize if it doesn't come off as exciting. But here we go. All right. Next week, for 4 straight weeks, it starts Women of Fantasy Football, the second annual. Everything that we do supports the Women's Sports Foundation. The raffles, anything you donate, all of it goes towards the Women's Sports Foundation. All hosted by everyone's favorite stepmom, Lauren Carpenter, and her trusty sidekick, Faith Enes. First show, the baller tandem from BallBlast Football, Kate and Michelle, along with Stacie Stern, who's the chairperson of Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. 8/18, 2 weeks from today, Liz Loza from Yahoo Fantasy and Melissa Jacobs, the founder of the Football Girl. 3 weeks from today, August 25th, ESPN's Stefania Bell and NFL on Fox reporter Laura Oakman. I love Laura. I love her every time she's on NFL on Fox.
I remember, Joe, you literally, that was your first request for a guest for this year. You're like, if we could get Laura Oakman, it'd be awesome.
People, what was it? Faith, I think, was sending me the reach outs and all this stuff. And I think she had already secured Stefania Bell at that point, which was incredible that early on. But then she'd give me a list. I'm like, look, here's 2 people. Annie Agar, if you can get her, because she's a fantastic personality and knows her stuff. And I think Laura Oakman is fantastic on NFL on Fox. So I'm very excited to have Laura on. Obviously, I'm not going to be on the show. So I'll just be watching from afar. But I'm very excited to have her at least be a part of the Club Fantasy Women of Fantasy Football brand. And for the final show on September 1st, if you don't know who Cooter Doodle is, you clearly just don't. You don't
Twitter.
Exist on Twitter.
You don't Twitter.
Yeah, you don't Twitter.
You don't social media.
Because even if you don't follow her, you probably have seen at least 5 of her videos, I would imagine. Yep. And then also on that last week's show, Renee Miller, writer with The Athletic and NBC Sports Edge. Raffles going.
There's going to be another Cooter Doodle video dropping very soon from us.
Oh my goodness. We have raffles
just
going.
throwing that out there.
Okay, fantastic. Great. Follow Club Fantasy FFL. Oh, God, you threw me off track. Raffles happening. I had it in my head. Raffles happening every single week. First week, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs, then quarterbacks to wrap it up. It is either a signed jersey or a signed helmet or a signed football. It is amazing. All of this stuff is incredible. Also, we're giving away more signed stuff, too. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, every 50, we're giving away a signed jersey. One of our interns at the Larks, Jerry Dangler, just won his signed Zach Moss jersey as we eclipsed 150 on last week's show. So please subscribe. You will be entered in to win anytime we hit those 50-mile markers. And when we hit those big ones, I think we'll maybe even do 2 or 3 little giveaways on there as well. All information about this year's Women of Fantasy Football shows can be found at womenoffantasyfootball.com. It'll take you right there. It's very simple, womenoffantasyfootball.com. Also, you can check it out at clubfantasyffl.com. That is where all of our Look at Side team previews live now. If you missed any of the shows dating back to, I think, mid-May, which is ridiculous thinking back that we've been doing this, talking about a single team since May. But they're all on the website as well as on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, you want to listen to or watch the video back as well. It's all on there. Zach Smith Bucks preview will be dropping tomorrow morning as well. So we talked about the Bucks here today. Podcast drops Thursday morning along with Zach's Bucks preview. Anything that I missed?
You did great. I don't know why Josh and I always doubt you.
Yeah, I don't know why you do either. Really tell me the show wouldn't run without me. Come on now, guys. No, this is awesome. I'm very excited. I know Josh has been working his behind off.
And his wallet.
Yes, so please empty yours for charity so
Yes.
I feel better about this.
Please. And I'm the one that normally does handle the web design and graphic creation with Maggie, who, for the record, all the graphics were created by Maggie this year. Everything was created by her. So literally everything that has to do with this event, outside of the web design of Josh's creation, is literally done by a female.
Yes.
So we try and keep our hands off it as much as possible. So please support. It is going to be awesome. If that's it, let's wrap it up for the. I will see you guys in 36 days, I think.
Ooh.
Oh God, we need that break. Thankfully. Jeez, my season ends August 14th for the Larks. Take a couple weeks off. It's gonna be sad when the season ends, but no, very, very excited because these shows always mean that it's right around the corner from the NFL season. Also, Hall of Fame game tomorrow.
That's right.
Who's watching? Not me. I have to work, but woo! Cowboys, Steelers. Who's ready?
Literally
For a whole bunch of Dwayne
3
Haskins.
miles from my house.
Oh, go get. Are they selling tickets? Are they
Get
letting
your
people in?
tickets, Ryan.
Oh, they're way too expensive for the first preseason game. They
Wait,
go to town on these tickets. It's ridiculous.
I was gonna say it's ridiculous.
They used to. I promise you, they used to like give them out for free, and as the NFL has grown, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
Well, football is officially back, ladies and gentlemen. I believe Field Yates tweeted there will be a professional or collegiate football game every weekend from now until the Super Bowl. So stay tuned, everyone. It is going to be a very fun season and a very fun next month of August leading into September with the Women of Fantasy Football shows. You could follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Josh, you can find at the One Hudsonian, Ryan at the Fantasy 5, myself at Joe_Zolo. You can find all of our look at side previews at clubfantasyffl.com. You can find all the information surrounding the second annual Women of Fantasy Football event at www.womenoffantasyfootball.com. And if you're going to the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio, you will see these two lovely faces there. This way. Nope. This. I'm
whatever.
I can't do it. Very confused. You'll see those two there, along with Faith and Lauren. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And Kira will be joining.
And Kira.
Woo, woo, woo. Good to see Kira. They will be there talking about the Women Fantasy Football event as well. And there will be some fun stuff that they have in store at the expo as well. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you in 36 days because Faith and Lauren will see you next week for the start of our Women of Fantasy Football shows featuring Kate and Michelle from BallBlast Football and Stacie Stern, chairperson of the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. We will see you next week.